Remember, the scales are made up of many different parts, right? Just like the parts of the mind. I'm talking about Mercury and Libra here. And as I'm making this video, Mercury is conjunct the South Node in Libra on its way to the Sun, where it'll make a conjunction with the Sun, and then afterwards square Pluto and Capricorn. We know the story since last Saturday's eclipse on the 21 degrees Libra, and the story's been carried over. You're hearing the words endings and beginnings that you usually hear with eclipses. And that's true. But in this sense, I don't think it's an ending in the beginning. I actually think that a lot of what's happening with Mercury this week in Libra, going through the South Node, something is being purged out, going through a so-called regeneration story at the same time, going through the Sun in Libra, and to come out and to square Pluto, which is an eliminator planet. It's true there's some endings here or beginnings, but I only think that's a small percentage of it. What I'm getting to is here, I think there's something very illusionary here with all this week. And I say this for several reasons, because in eclipses and in dramatic situations that you might be having in the Libra Aries part of your chart, things seem like finality. The attempt for something new, or the type of conversation that's so-called filled with diplomacy. But for me, I'm calling it a costume of diplomacy, a costume of elegance. Why am I saying this? And I'm going to show you. And it has a big part to do with Neptune here. In the chart, you're going to see, and I will point out what I'm talking about, what's happening right now. We have Mercury that just passed the South Node in Libra within the last 24 hours of making this video. It's still there. You also see it on its way to conjuncting the Sun and having its Cazimi moment at the heart of the Sun, and it moving forward 26 degrees. We will point out the 27 degree Pluto in Capricorn that we have here, that Mercury is currently squaring. There's a challenge. There's a certain type of truth, or is there? Here, most important, at 25 degrees Pisces is Neptune, making an inconjunct, what they call a quincunx, to Mercury at 26 degrees. They're not quite seeing each other, and Mercury is throwing an elusive, veiled, foggy influence on Mercury. So, you think you're hearing the truth? Maybe. You think there's something letting go, it's the end? It feels that way. You think Mercury's going through a rebirth process? In a small way, because it does it all the time. There's something that wants to be unearthed truth-wise. Remember, Mercury in Libra is going to find any way to harmonize through word and communication, find those places of diplomacy, and try. But here, there's something way off to me. And when we start using the words finality and endings, you have to know, if you're following astrology, that 6 months from now, we're going to have a moment where basically eclipses again in the signs of Aries and Libra. And it's a big one on April 8th that's going to come. But it's not over yet. As a matter of fact, it gets to something even more. And I'm going to show you this because it's just what I'm really feeling right now. And it has to do with this chart. What chart is this? This chart is September 29th, 2024. Basically a year from what we're talking about right now. I will show you. There's Mercury at 5 degrees. There's the South Node in Libra at 6 degrees. And there's the Sun. Mercury is pretty much on September 29th into the 30th conjunct the South Node, just like it's doing right now as I'm making this video. And it will go the next day or within hours into the Sun, just like right now that's happening here October 19th here into the 20th in the middle of the night. And not only that, we're going to look at Pluto and Capricorn at 29 degrees. So basically, Mercury a year from now is going to do the same thing that it's doing right now in these 48 plus hours. What is this really? What it is, in my mind, is that I think a lot of what's happening with this eclipse this week and the proclamations being made, the so-called diplomacy, the so-called truth, it may seem that way. And the drama that comes in from so-called endings, it may seem that way. But you have to get it in your mind. This is why I'm feeling and thinking about this. That the scales of Libra, the parts that make up the scales, there is only one part here that is fallen off, that is not working, and it needs to be dismantled. And it will here slowly, and it started earlier this year in spring, and it's happening now, and we're going to see it in spring of 2024, and a year from now, I'm making this video, in September to October, that scale will be completely dismantled. If you were to use this in a sense, you will dismantle the scale from now into a year from now, and at the same time build another one, a new one at the same time, if you work the polarity correctly. But I feel that there's an illusionary Neptunian moment here with what the truth is lately. People are saying what they feel or something's ending. It's not all what it seems, and I don't fully believe it all. And what I do know from my young experience as an astrologer, the biggest thing in astrology for me is things are cyclical. That means cycles upon cycles. And a lot of times, what comes around goes around. And it happens in many different ways. But if we keep it simple, we can be nuanced. But when we're in emotional charged situations of so-called endings and beginnings, certain things are happening. It's dramatic. Think about when you move through those situations and how your nervous system was acting, or how you thought it was the end of it all or the end of something, and then the next eclipse 6 months later showed you that it wasn't, that it actually just turned into something new. It wasn't the end per se. How do I know this? I just need to look at the last 2 years of the Taurus-Scorpio eclipses. Dramatic. But if you think about it, if you go through it and you see what happened afterwards, it's not what you thought it was. Did things change? They did. Did it come across through endings and beginnings? In a way it did, but you have to take a broader perspective. Stories change, but the themes are there. And depending on what survives, it's the part that survives that was there from before. Things come back around. So this is what I'm saying here with this eclipse week, with Mercury, with the Sun, with the South Node. It's squaring Pluto. It's going to do it a year from now. There's a lot more to this story. So that's why I'm not banking on the facts or certain things right now. I'm taking a step back and I'm like, I've seen this before. I know this. It's not over yet. The story is not over. And how much one is emotionally invested in this is key. And you have to look to the Aries and Libra parts of your chart if you have planets there. Same with the other cardinal signs, Cancer, Capricorn. You have to look here and you have to see what you're really trying to grab onto, or what you're really saying something's new that you're proclaiming. It's only the beginning part of the story and one part of the scale that is falling off. Soon, the other parts of the scale that do not work anymore will be falling off. You might as well have an interesting point of view on that and incorporate yourself into taking the pieces apart and to put something new back together again. Endings and beginnings? We will see. And mark my words, 1 year from now, at the end of September, then you will know if it's the truth or not. Until next time, I'll see you on the next video.